The Korean version of Parasite is here. With a shock, alien parasites invade Earth. They eat the brains of humans upon sight. Then they replace them, blending into the crowd. One day, a music festival is being held at the stadium. A group of sea urchins appears in the sky. They fall into the stadium. After landing, the parasites emerge from inside. They quickly search for a host. Not long after, it makes its way through the pipes to the lounge. A drunken young man is lying there. The parasite targets him and drills into his ear. In just 5 minutes, the young man's brain is taken over. The parasite eats his brain, gaining control of his body. His sister entered and called him to go dance. However, he is sleeping like a pig. She leaves in anger. The parasite soon awakens. It gradually adapts to the human body. Expressionless, it walks toward the crowd. The people around don't notice anything unusual until his sister realized he is awake. She wants to dance with him. Unexpectedly, he turns on her. The entire stadium turns into hell. The parasite begins a frenzied massacre of humans. On the other side, the female lead Sujin encounters a troublesome customer. The thug buys meat without weighing it or putting on a price tag. They get into an argument. The thug steps forward and threatens to kill her. Sujin doesn't take it seriously. She continues serving the customers behind her. After work, she rides her electric bike home. Suddenly, a car speeds up from behind her. The car knocks Sujin down. The thug from earlier actually approaches her with a knife. He stabs her from behind dozens of times. Sujin struggles free and runs into the fields, but after a few steps, she faints in the fields. The thug thinks Sujin has hidden away. He continues to chase after her with the knife. At this moment, a sea urchin happens to fall beside Sujin. The thug is about to find Sujin, and Sujin is still unconscious. At this time, a vehicle in the distance spots Sujin. She is taken to the hospital. The police learn that another murder has occurred. They feel quite helpless. Recently, for some unknown reason, there have been many cases like this. However, this time the situation is different. The victim is not in life-threatening condition. Instead, the suspect died on the spot, and he was cut in half. The veteran detective, Uncle Ming, is also very puzzled. When he hears that the victim is Sujin, he shows a serious expression. It turned out that they have known each other for a long time. Sujin's childhood was very tragic. She suffered from domestic abuse by her father from a young age. Her mother abandoned her as well. Once, during an incident of abuse, Sujin called the police. It was Uncle Ming who came to rescue her. After that, he took great care of her. Then, Uncle Ming led his team to visit Sujin. At this time, she was still in a coma. One of his subordinates told Uncle Ming. The doctor conducted a thorough examination on Sujin. Although her clothes were covered in blood, there were no new wounds on her body. Instead, there were many old knife scars. During their conversation, Sujin began to awaken. The police asked her about her condition. Sujin only remembers being chased by the thug. She recalls being stabbed and fainting in the fields. She doesn't remember what happened afterward. The police tell her that her body only has old scars. Sujin, surprised, replied that she was indeed stabbed and that she didn't have any old scars before. At this point, Uncle Ming asked his subordinates to leave. He wanted to have a private chat with Sujin. Then, he informed her of the thug's death. Sujin was very confused. She had indeed suffered serious injuries, but why did the murderer die on the spot? Uncle Ming could only comfort her. She might have encountered a major trauma, causing her memories to become distorted. She chose to avoid the emotional pain. However, Sujin firmly stated that her memory was fine. When she was stabbed, Sujin recalled the abuse from her father. Just like back then, she felt that misfortune had struck again. Her feelings couldn't be wrong. Uncle Ming listened and didn't continue to speak. He told Sujin to get some rest. He asked her to inform him of any new developments. After Uncle Ming left, Sujin sat numbly on the bed. She struggled to recall what had happened, but all she could remember was the pain. In the blink of an eye, a few months later, a small-time thug disguised himself as a gang member. He planned to assassinate the gang boss. Although the boss entered the room alone, the thug, Kong Yu, was no match for him. He was quickly subdued by the boss. Immediately, the boss rushed out to call for backup. Kong Yu charged out, wanting to kill the boss, but there were too many of the boss's men. He couldn't complete the task and had to flee. Kong Yu was being pursued with nowhere to hide. He had no choice but to return to his rural home. Kang Yu hadn't been home for several months. He didn't know that his sister had become a parasite. While drinking water, the light behind him suddenly turned on. His sister's appearance looked like a ghost. Kang Yu was startled as well. The parasite turned to look at a nearby photo. Only then did it realize that the person in front of it was the host's brother. Kang Yu sensed something was off about his sister, but he didn't pay much attention to it. He then asked where his sister had gone.
나도.
Her vague answer made Kang Yu suspicious. He went to check his sister's room. Kang Yu found his sister's phone left at home. She never parted with her phone. He looked up and noticed a flyer for a cult on the mirror. He suspected that his sister had fallen into a cult. On the other side, Sujin had returned to work. She looked at the old scars on her back. Sujin still couldn't remember when she had been hurt. Work hours ended. Sujin boarded the bus to go home. Uncle Ming called her. He wanted to check on her recent situation. Uncle Ming urged her to get more rest. Suddenly, a sharp buzzing sound echoed in her mind. Sujin looked up. She saw a man get on the bus, and he was staring at her intently. Sujin felt uneasy under his gaze. She turned to glance back. She found the man was still looking at her. Terrified, Sujin hurriedly got off the bus, but the man's gaze followed her until the bus drove away. Sujin didn't know that danger was closing in on her. In the depths of the city, a rich second-generation man had just met a woman. He was following her directions to her home. Upon arriving at the destination, he found the place to be in ruins. It was completely different from the woman's style. Entering the house, the man commented on her heavy taste. She immediately began to undress. The man thought they were about to get down to business. However, 4 people suddenly burst into the room. He thought they were the woman's family, but they were discussing how to eat him for the best flavor. The man was terrified upon hearing this. He had encountered a twisted cannibal. He quickly took out his phone to call the police. Suddenly, the man was stunned by the scene before him. In a critical moment, the lights outside suddenly turned on. Then, a smoke grenade shattered through the window. The smoke stimulated the parasite. The man was very quick-witted. He seized the opportunity to escape the parasite's lair. The parasite was shot dead by soldiers. This was a special force dedicated to hunting parasites. They were called the Grey Unit. They had long been monitoring this gang. The parasite fought back desperately, but the Grey Unit was highly skilled at capturing parasites. They brought out new weapons. In just 2.5 minutes, only one parasite was left. Seeing the situation was dire, it escaped through the window. After reaching the ground, it quickly transformed back into human form. Suddenly, while passing by a van, it felt a call from its kind. It turned to look at the nearby vehicle. Among them was a parasite with a strange device. It did not respond to its call. It simply pressed the button in its hand. At this moment, Captain Choi Junkyung burst in. She aimed to capture the parasite alive, but it managed to escape by chance. Her subordinates arrived to report the situation. The remaining parasites had been eliminated. Choi Junkyung returned to the scene to inspect the work. Suddenly, she sensed a door nearby emitting an ominous aura. She instructed her subordinates to open the door. As soon as the door was opened, a foul odor wafted out. A glass case came into view. Inside the case were human limbs, and on the wall next to it was a strange totem. Choi Junkyung called in the identification team. Then, she turned and walked to the window. The building also bore the same symbol. It seemed this was their storage room for bodies. Choi Junkyung was very astonished by this. In just a few months, the parasites had already established an organization. They had learned to survive and hunt within human society. At night, Kang Yu followed his sister. As she left home, he intended to find out what was happening with her. On the other side, Sujin had just finished work and was taking the bus home. After getting off, the buzzing sound from before echoed in her mind again. Immediately after, she saw that man from before by the roadside. Sujin just took out her phone to contact Uncle Ming. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly charged at her. Quickly, Sujin was surrounded by 2 parasites. They wanted to confirm whether Sujin was one of their kind.
필요하다.
Sujin's life was in danger. The parasite inside her quickly took control of her body. After revealing its identity to the man confirmed Sujin's identity. He stopped his companion, who was about to attack. He stated that, since they were all parasites, they should unite to survive. Next, he pulled out a flyer from his pocket. It was the same cult that Kang Yu had discovered. Then, the two parasites left the area. Kang Yu witnessed everything. Who was stunned. He wanted to escape quickly. If nothing went wrong, he would definitely make a noise. Then, he was spotted by Sujin. Sujin directly threw Kang Yu away. However, Sujin did not kill him. Instead, she gave him a task. When Sujin woke up from her coma, Kang Yu would tell Sujin, as instructed by the parasite, to stay away from those who made her hear the buzzing sound. Those people were all monsters. The parasite inside her was named Heidi. When the thug severely injured Sujin, the parasite happened to fall beside her. But at that time, Sujin was on the verge of death. With no other choice, Heidi could only heal her body first, thereby missing the opportunity to eat her brain. After saying all this, Kang Yu left. Sujin listened, looking bewildered. After returning home, Sujin still couldn't process it all. She took out a notebook and wrote down a sentence. After she finished writing, she lay down on the bed and fell asleep. When she woke up, she found that there were indeed responses in the notebook. Heidi told her that what Kang Yu said was all true. Then, it asked her to write down all her questions in the notebook. The next day, when she woke up, the notebook was already filled with questions and answers. Heidi told Sujin that it was initially just a larva. Due to its instincts, it took over a body to eat the brain. At that time, it set its sights on Sujin's brain. It intended to parasitize Sujin, but after entering Sujin's body, it realized that the host was severely injured. To survive, it could only heal the host first. It initiated full-body homogeneity. It healed Sujin's injuries, but it was too late to take her brain. Now, it could only appear when Sujin was in life-threatening danger. According to its experiments, within a day, it could at most control the body. For 15 minutes, Heidi warned Sujin to stay away from other parasites. If it was discovered that she was a mutated parasite, they would kill Sujin. Moreover, Heidi left a video on Sujin's phone. As she looked at her reflection on the screen, Sujin was completely shocked. Her life had undergone a dramatic change. Meanwhile, the police station was taken over by the Gray Unit. All the police officers underwent X-ray examinations. Then, Choi Junkyung held a lecture. She revealed the existence of parasites to the local police. The disaster at the recent music festival was caused by parasites behind the scenes. To prevent public panic, the Gray Unit sealed off information about the parasites. Choi Junkyung lifted the white cloth in front of her. A terrifying parasite corpse appeared before everyone. Data showed that parasite eggs appeared simultaneously around the world. No one knew where they came from. Larvae can enter the human body through the ears, nostrils, or mouth, and after consuming the brain, they transform into parasites. Due to their instincts, they will choose to hunt humans. The head of the parasite can freely change its shape and hardness, even turning into a knife. When not transformed, it looks no different from an ordinary person. At this moment, they are mingling among humans, but there is no need to be afraid. There are other methods to identify them besides X-rays. Parasites are a whole mass of cells. If you pull out a hair, it will quickly break apart without energy support. So, if there is a suspicious person nearby, you just need to pull out a hair to verify. Dealing with them is not complicated either. As long as the host loses too much blood or has its heart pierced, the parasite can be eliminated. Therefore, a shotgun is the ideal weapon. Then, Choi Junkyung stated that, fortunately, the parasite at the music festival was foolish. Its reckless killing behavior exposed the existence of parasites. As a result, South Korea established the first parasite research organization and made significant progress. And this is all thanks to Choi Junkyung's husband, or more precisely, the parasite that occupies her husband. It wears a specially designed steel helmet on its head, which can spray chemical substances inside. This will cause the parasite pain. Choi Junkyung demonstrated by pressing a button, and the parasite's head began to smoke. The helmet also has sensors. As long as the parasite changes its form, it will trigger the release of the chemicals. At this moment, a police officer on the second floor asked, "Why not kill this parasite?" Choi Junkyung explained, According to the organization's research, parasites locate their kind based on brainwaves. Keeping this parasite allows us to utilize this trait, acting as a radar to search for other parasites. The gray unit refers to it as a hunting dog. The latest intelligence from the hunting dog shows that the area with the most parasites is the local Namir County. That's why the gray unit has taken over the police station. At this moment, the police chief suggested, "It's not right to mistreat a person like this." Upon hearing this, Choi Jun-kyung immediately stopped smiling. Then, she took off her gloves and handed her ear to the chief. The chief was so frightened that he couldn't speak.
박놀이해야 될 괴물, 벌레, 바이러스예요.
On the other side, Kangyu exchanged a watch for some cash at a pawn shop. Then, he found a mobile phone store. He wanted to repair his sister's phone. After paying off his sister's bill, Kangyu arrived at the door. He spotted a motorcycle shop nearby. Kangyu wanted to buy a second-hand bike, but the bike needed a new belt. Kangyu said to fix it first, and he would come back to pick it up later. Unexpectedly, as soon as Kangyu left, the shop owner picked up the phone. He was unknowingly passing information to someone. Kangyu returned to the phone shop to pick up the phone. The young man at the store told him, "Many people came looking for you this morning with your photo."
팁. 감사합니다.
Kangyu went back to the motorcycle shop. He wanted to ride away on the bike. However, as soon as Kangyu entered, a van stopped at the entrance. A group of people got out of the van. They began to punch and kick Kangyu. In a critical moment, Kangyu grabbed a motorcycle and escaped. His pursuers chased closely behind him. Using the bike's agility, he outmaneuvered them. One of the thugs even tried to attack Kangyu. Kangyu reached a safe location. Then he contacted his companions to meet at a gas station. On the other side, Uncle Ming arrived at the shopping mall where Sujin worked. He bought 2 bottles of coffee to chat with Sujin. After listening to Choi Jun-kyung's lecture last time, he suspected that Sujin had been transformed by a parasite. Uncle Ming had been worried about this. In his heart, today, he looked for an opportunity to pull out a hair from Sujin. Fortunately, the hair did not break. Uncle Ming was relieved. He gave Sujin a gift and then left. By nightfall, Sujin encountered those 2 parasites again. They were taking Sujin to meet the priest. She had no choice but to feign calmness and go along. On the way, the man said, "The organization needs talented parasites." The priest heard that Sujin could mimic human expressions, so he was eager to see her. Soon, the car arrived at the cult's church. Inside the church, many parasites were gathered. This was the lair of the parasites. Sujin saw a person standing on the platform. This must be their leader, the priest. Then, the priest played a video. He told everyone, "The gray unit is capturing our kind alive." To locate the positions of the parasites, a few months ago, parasites descended with a simple goal: to occupy and consume human brains. This is the instinct of all parasites. However, the music festival a few months ago, it saw one of their kind kill recklessly due to its instincts. It was shot dead by humans, which exposed their existence. Now, parasites still do not fully understand themselves, while humans have thoroughly studied them. Although humans are weak, for the sake of survival, they must parasitize on humans. Moreover, the clever priest believes that humans, like parasites, are parasitized within a conceptual entity, it called organization, and sacrifice for it. So, the humans in the organization are very formidable. Parasites want to imitate humans. They aim to establish an organization to oppose humans. Meanwhile, Kangyu came to the church to investigate his sister's disappearance. He also arrived at the church. Kangyu noticed a suspicious warehouse nearby. When the parasites were having a meeting, he sneaked in. Unexpectedly, this turned out to be a storage room for bodies. Humans had been brutally murdered and stored in body bags here. Suddenly, a parasite appeared at the door. It seemed to have caught the scent of a human. But its eyesight and hearing were not very good. It did not find Kangyu. Kangyu walked along the wall toward the exit. He accidentally kicked a stick. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and hooked it with his foot. However, when he bent down to pick up the stick, Kangyu saw a heartbreaking scene. His sister, whom he had searched for so hard, at this time, she's right in front of him. However, his sister had already turned into a cold corpse. Now, all his relatives had perished. Sadness and anger surged in his heart. his scream was heard by the parasites in the church. The priest realized that the church had been invaded by humans. He ordered all the parasites to kill the humans. Sujin had not yet reacted. She stood there, unsure of what to do. The keys were knocked away in the chaos, but at this moment, the priest was staring at Sujin. With no choice, Sujin had to abandon the keys and leave. On Kong Yu's side, after escaping, he ran frantically down the mountain. If he was caught by the parasites, he would surely be killed. Kong Yu ran into a group of men in black. The people who had chased him before had followed him again. Kong Yu couldn't care about gang rivalries. He hurriedly tried to persuade them to leave, but the gang members didn't take his words seriously. They directly pinned him against the car. To deal with him, turning around, they saw several people coming down the mountain. The small leader thought they were just ordinary people. He warned them to leave and not to meddle. Kong Yu watched as the parasites drew closer. He felt a sense of despair. However, the gang didn't take it seriously. They threatened everyone with knives to leave. In such a frightening scene, the gang members still dared to approach. The remaining thugs were all killed. Kong Yu seized the opportunity to escape, only to collide head-on with Sujin. The two hurriedly ran down the mountain. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the gas station. Their companions had been waiting there for a long time. Kong Yu quickly asked for the car keys. The thugs hadn't grasped the situation yet. Kong Yu jumped into the car with a few people and drove off. He looked tense as he glanced out the window. The thugs thought the gang was after them, but Kong Yu said, "The gang is already dead." Moreover, he suspected that someone had tipped them off. Upon hearing this, the thugs immediately changed their expressions. One of them pulled out a knife. To deal with Kong Yu, the two began to grapple with each other. At this moment, Sujin sensed the approach of her kind again. Heidi emerged once more. In the face of danger, the car transformed into a convertible. Two parasites fought on the car. Kong Yu took the opportunity to throw the opponent off the car, but Sujin was also stopped by a branch. The battlefield shifted to the road again. The opponent was no match for Heidi. It tried to escape to inform the priest. Immediately, it sprouted wings and flew into the air. Heidi swiftly threw out a blade and killed it. When the parasite transformed into wings, its attack power was almost zero, but the opponent's intelligence was relatively low. Clearly unaware of this fact, it uttered a few words before dying. After the threat was eliminated, Heidi returned to the body. Then, Sujin fainted on the ground. Meanwhile, on Kong Yu's side, the vehicle stopped right at the edge of the cliff. When he woke from his unconsciousness, he was shocked by the scene before him. Kong Yu hurriedly woke up the thug, urging him to escape together. He thought that the thug had been tricked by the gang, but the thug grabbed his shirt and told him, "The one who wants to kill you is the gang leader." He warned him to be very careful. After saying this, he lost his breath, but his hand was still gripping Kong Yu's shirt. Kong Yu couldn't shake him off, no matter how hard he tried. Suddenly, he pulled too hard and fell out of the window. Fortunately, he managed to grab the car door. Before long, Sujin also woke up. She was stunned to see the corpse of the parasite before her. Before she could examine it closely, she suddenly remembered Kong Yu rushing into the woods. Sujin walked to the edge of the road. She saw Kong Yu hanging at the edge of the cliff. After hesitating, she decided to save him. She went to the edge of the cliff, wanting to reach out and grab him, but Sujin's arms were too short to reach him. Suddenly, she slipped. Fortunately, Heidi acted again. Tentacles grabbed Kong Yu and pulled both of them to safety. Heidi complained that Sujin was meddling. She turned to look at the nearby human. Due to betrayal and the loss of family, Kong Yu fell into deep sadness. Meanwhile, Choi Junkyun was reviewing strange cases sent from the police station. She wanted to find traces of parasites among them. Sujin's case came into her view. The professional Choi Junkyun recognized Sujin as a parasite. 3 months ago, Choi Junkyun was shopping with her husband, but to save on parking fees, she returned to the supermarket to ask for a receipt. At this moment, an alien egg fell beside her husband. The egg directly parasitized her husband. A commotion erupted outside. The mutated parasites arrived at the supermarket. Choi Junkyun, confused, called out to her husband. She didn't have time to pick up the ear on the ground. Choi Junkyun hurriedly fled for her life. she realized that the monster in front of her was not her husband. She saw the disinfectant nearby. Choi Jun-kyung sprinted to dodge the parasite's attack. She grabbed the disinfectant and rushed into a room. The parasite was lured inside as well. Parasites were very afraid of the irritation from such chemicals. Choi Jun-kyung took the opportunity to dash out of the room. She locked her husband inside. Choi Jun-kyung watched her loved one turn into a monster. Her heart was filled with anguish. Time returned to the present. The woman woke from her dream. She had become a member of the Gray Unit, hunting parasites. On Soo-jin's side, after killing the parasite, the two were afraid of being pursued, so they hid in a small motel. Kang-yu suggested calling the police to capture the parasites. He saw that hiding inside Soo-jin did not stop him. The two hurried to a phone booth on the street. For safety, they chose to report anonymously. Uncle Ming received a call from Kang-yu. He learned of a mysterious church in the mountains. In fact, it was the lair of the parasites, and there were many human corpses in the warehouse. Uncle Ming quickly checked the map. Unexpectedly, there really was a church deep in the mountains. He hurried to the Gray Unit headquarters. Uncle Ming wanted to inform Choi Jun-kyung about this, but Choi Jun-kyung said she was also planning to visit him. She wanted to understand the details of Soo-jin's case. Uncle Ming sensed her suspicion.
머리카락 검사도 했고요. 이상 없습니다.
Choi Jun-kyung remained skeptical about it. Then, Uncle Ming mentioned that someone had reported the church. At this moment, Choi Jun-kyung's assistant found the church's emblem. It was indeed the totem of the parasites. Choi Jun-kyung immediately gathered her team to head to the church. She first used a drone to scout from above, but they did not spot any signs of parasites. The hunting dog also did not sense the presence of parasites, but that didn't mean there were no parasites nearby. It could also be that the hunting dog was deceiving them. Choi Jun-kyung ordered the troops to attack. They rushed into the warehouse and found that there were no bodies hanging in the warehouse. Instead, they discovered a large tarp on the ground. When they lifted it, they found the ground covered with human remains. It seemed this was also a storage room for parasites, but the parasites had already vanished. The adjacent church was also empty. Suddenly, Uncle Ming saw a set of keys on the ground. The keychain was the very gift he had given to Soo-jin. He realized that Soo-jin had been here. Uncle Ming couldn't figure out what Soo-jin was doing here. He put the keys into his pocket, but this scene was seen by Choi Jun-kyung.
뭐 좀 찾았어요?
Choi Jun-kyung did not press further. Her suspicion deepened. In this operation, over 500 pieces of remains were discovered. They found that the owner of the church was the priest. The family had been reported missing 3 months ago. Choi Jun-kyung speculated that either the whole family had turned into parasites, or one of them mutated and ate the others. Now they needed a police officer to investigate the priest's whereabouts. Uncle Ming's assistant, the fat guy, volunteered to investigate, but he went straight to the parasite's new hideout. Unexpectedly, he was a traitor among humans. He was the one who had tipped them off. That's why the parasites had moved. Before the Gray Unit arrived, the priest wanted to know who reported the church, but the fat guy didn't know who the reporter was. All he knew was that it was an anonymous male. The woman guessed it was the host's brother, Kang-yu. Moreover, the parasite sent to hunt Kang-yu was already dead. The wounds appeared to be inflicted by another of its kind. Upon hearing this, the fat guy felt helpless. There was even betrayal within the parasites. The priest remarked, "How can you still have the audacity to say such things?" Then, he stated that as long as the hunting dog was alive, the parasites could not hide peacefully anywhere. He took out a special dagger. The hunting dog would discover the parasite's whereabouts, so he couldn't get close. Thus, the priest wanted the fat guy to kill the hunting dog for them. The fat guy had no choice but to take the dagger. On the other side, Soo-jin and Kang-yu had been hiding in the motel. Kang-yu even helped her take a leave of absence. Suddenly, Soo-jin received a call from Uncle Ming. He wanted to meet with Soo-jin to talk. Kang-yu suggested going to the nearby abandoned amusement park. Then Uncle Ming took his handgun. He hurried to the amusement park, but Choi Jun-kyung saw him. She ordered her subordinates to follow Uncle Ming's car. She secretly followed behind as well. By the time Soo-jin and Kang-yu arrived, Uncle Ming was already waiting at the amusement park. He saw a strange man next to Soo-jin. He immediately became alert. Uncle Ming pulled Soo-jin aside to to check her keychain. Sujin had no choice but to say she lost it, but Uncle Ming took out the keys from his pocket. He asked her if she had been to the church. Uncle Ming wanted to know what had really happened to her. Sujin didn't know how to explain. At this moment, Choi Junkyung arrived at the amusement park with the hunting dog. The alarm in her hand suddenly went off. The hunting dog frantically pressed the button in its hand. Choi Junkyung picked up her shotgun and entered the amusement park. She also summoned the gray unit to gather here. Sujin sensed the approach of the parasites in her mind. She quickly warned the two. Kang Yu pulled her into the haunted house. The two dared not make a sound. Kang Yu turned on the power to the haunted house. He intentionally disrupted Choi Junkyung's judgment. The troops arrived at that moment as well. The two in the haunted house had nowhere to escape. Kang Yu prayed for Heidi to appear. She told Kang Yu to run first. After knocking down Choi Junkyung, she escaped, but she was blocked by the gray unit members behind her. Heidi relinquished control of the body. Sujin collapsed to the ground. Meanwhile, the fat cop received a call from Uncle Ming, and also arrived here. At this time, the gray unit had already entered the amusement park. Taking advantage of the absence of people, he put on a protective suit and took out a dagger. He was preparing to kill the hunting dog in the car, and this scene was coincidentally witnessed by the escaping Kang Yu. Kang Yu saw the fat man's appearance after taking off his isolation suit. Kang Yu felt shocked. At this moment, Choi Junkyung came to the car. Based on the hunting dog's signal, she wanted to capture the other parasites. Seeing Choi Junkyung, Kang Yu turned and ran. Choi Junkyung found the hunting dog lying on the ground, covered in blood. She opened the device on its head. Her husband's face appeared before her. He was completely dead. A brief sadness appeared in her eyes. Then, she took the device and returned to the amusement park. At this moment, Uncle Ming was standing in front of the unconscious Sujin. He told the soldiers that Sujin was just an ordinary person. Choi Junkyung directly placed the device on Sujin's head. A new hunting dog was born. The gray unit escorted Sujin back to headquarters, but after an X-ray examination, Sujin's brain was still normal. There was no evidence of any parasites, but Choi Junkyung insisted that she had seen Sujin transform with her own eyes. Uncle Ming was very angry and reproached her. Choi Junkyung did not care about this. She was convinced that Sujin was definitely a new mutation. At this moment, the leader in the meeting suggested that there were many videos online that caused panic. It was time to make the news about the parasites public, but the premise was that the gray unit had to understand the parasites well enough and be able to easily eliminate them. So the leader requested that Sujin be taken to the base. They would conduct a comprehensive examination of Sujin. They called it an examination, but once there, it would likely be dissection. The escorting task was assigned to Choi Junkyung. Upon hearing this, Choi Junkyung revealed a satisfied smile. Uncle Ming was reluctant, but had no way to change it. The fat guy was still mocking the way humans operated. At this time, in order to protect Sujin, Heidi locked her consciousness in her inner world. This was to prevent Sujin from waking up and seeing her predicament, falling into panic, or even being scared to death. In the inner world, Sujin recalled scenes from her childhood. After her mother left, her father abused her every day, so she reported her father. Uncle Ming arrived to rescue her, but the neighbors around her stared at her as if she were a monster. Later, she asked Uncle Ming to find her mother's address. Her mother had a new family and children. She was very disgusted by her arrival. Her mother only gave her some money and told her to leave, never to come back again. Sujin's childhood had been so miserable. No one liked her. Misfortune always accompanied her, so she felt cursed. Even though Heidi saved her life, she still thought it would be better to just die. Meanwhile, the fat guy extracted route information from the soldiers escorting Sujin. He turned and told the priest the news. The church must take Sujin away in advance. Otherwise, the parasites would find it even harder to survive. Moreover, there seemed to be a deal between the fat guy and the priest. On the other side, Uncle Ming asked his colleagues to find information on Kang Yu. They arrested him on the bus he was about to escape on. Kang Yu was handcuffed in the vehicle, ready to be taken back to the police station. Upon hearing they were going back to the police station, Kang Yu resisted immediately. He pointed out that there were monsters in the police station. Uncle Ming didn't believe him. He explained that everyone in the police station had been tested, and there were no monsters lurking among them. Kang Yu insisted that He had seen the people in the police station kill the hunting dog. Uncle Ming took out a photo of the officers for him to identify. Kan Yu recognized the fat guy. Uncle Ming couldn't believe it. The parasite hidden in the police station was his assistant. He fell into deep thought. Then, he asked Kan Yu to tell him everything that had happened. After listening, Uncle Ming felt at ease. Although there was a parasite inside Sujin now, Sujin was still completely herself, and Heidi only protected Sujin to survive. She wouldn't actively attack others. But now, Sujin was to be sent to the base for research. Uncle Ming wanted to rescue Sujin. He then unlocked Kan Yu's handcuffs. Uncle Ming wanted him to join the operation to rescue her before she was taken away. He told Kan Yu that he still had a choice. Upon hearing there was still a chance, he got out of the vehicle and left.
네 동생 죽었다면서. 네 누나도 괴물 되고. 어?
Ultimately, Kan Yu couldn't escape his own conscience. He decided to join Uncle Ming in the operation. Uncle Ming gave Kan Yu a key to sneak into the police station's locker room. The special task force had been established for less than a month, so if he acted naturally, no one would suspect him, but he needed to take care of a few people. In the locker room, Kan Yu arrived at the locker room. He found a muscular SWAT officer in front of him. He became frightened. Kan Yu turned to leave. Uncle Ming had given him a personal defense spray. He hadn't taken it seriously at the time. Now, he pressed the spray towards the soldier. Before long, Kan Yu changed his clothes and left the room. Uncle Ming told him to get the helmet controller. But at this moment, Choi Junkyung also arrived. She took the controller away. Choi Junkyung mistook Kan Yu for a guarding soldier. She arranged for Kan Yu to enter the container and follow the team. Soon, the main force was fully mobilized. Uncle Ming scolded him for being unreliable. Kan Yu quickly got in the car to follow the main force. At this time, the fat guy also arrived and sat in the passenger seat. The main force arrived at the overpass. Suddenly, there was a traffic jam ahead. Choi Junkyung ordered her subordinates to check it out. The subordinate found that there had been an accident up ahead. Suddenly, the person in front transformed. He launched an attack on the soldiers. All the gray unit soldiers got out of their vehicles. They surrounded the parasites, but unexpectedly, many parasites appeared. The entire swarm of parasites was mobilized. They were all out to capture Sujin. Humans and parasites faced off for the first time, but the combat power of the parasites was clearly stronger. Before long, the gray unit on the bridge was completely wiped out. The truck driver tried to reverse and escape, but the parasites killed him anyway. Choi Junkyung rushed to provide support. She accidentally collided and fainted. At this moment, Kan Yu didn't know what was happening. He opened the container and discovered the parasites were attacking the convoy. He got out of the car and saw the unconscious Choi Junkyung. Kan Yu found the controller from her, but at this moment, Choi Junkyung woke up and stopped Kan Yu. Suddenly, a parasite appeared in front of them. Kan Yu took the opportunity to jump onto the truck. He had just untied the ropes from Sujin. The container was torn open by the parasite. Fortunately, at this moment, Uncle Ming shot it dead from outside. Kan Yu looked at the controller in his hand. He randomly pressed a button. At this time, in Sujin's inner world, Heidi was comforting Sujin. Uncle Ming had always cared for her. This made Sujin feel less alone. And now, it was time for Sujin to leave. The inner world began to dissolve. As Kan Yu removed the device, Sujin woke up. Kan Yu pulled her to escape. Uncle Ming finally felt relieved to see Sujin safe. At this moment, the fat guy drew his gun and shot at them, but he did not hit either of them. The fat guy shouted for Uncle Ming to pursue, but halfway there, he suddenly turned and took Uncle Ming to another location. Kan Yu saw that the car was no longer in pursuit. He thought they had given up, but Sujin suddenly sensed parasites nearby. She quickly got out of the car and ran toward Uncle Ming. At this moment, the fat guy brought Uncle Ming to a farmhouse. He told Uncle Ming about the benefits of the church. The fat guy wanted to recruit him to join the church. Uncle Ming drew his gun and did not believe him. At this moment, the priest emerged from behind the fat guy. Uncle Ming shot his gun. Unexpectedly, the priest had already evolved. He could detach from his original host and seek a new body. Sujin witnessed her uncle die before her eyes. She summoned Heidi to fight the priest. The fat guy wanted to launch a sneak attack. Fortunately, he was scared off by the arriving Kan Yu. Kanyu picked up Sujin and left, and the priest did not pursue them. Now, he needed time to adjust to his new body. Later, the fat guy disposed of Uncle Ming's head. The priest transformed to look like Uncle Ming. He could freely enter and exit the police station now. At this time, Sujin was overwhelmed with grief over Uncle Ming's death. Heidi could only lock her in her inner world once again. Kanyu prepared a hiding place for her. Time rewound to 2 weeks ago. Kanyu's sister, Jin Hee, was loading the truck, selling fruits. The driver uncle sympathized with her. Her brother Kanyu was not helping, but Jin Hee said her brother was working. He wanted to earn money to cure their sister. She hadn't been in touch with Kanyu for a long time. That night, when she returned home, she saw a strange vehicle parked at the door. Her sister walked out of the house. The priest was right beside her. Before long, another stranger arrived. Her sister directly transformed into a parasite. Jin-hee was terrified by the scene and fled in panic. She ran onto the road. Jin-hee was caught up by the parasite. In a moment of crisis, Jin-hee hid in a sewer. But unexpectedly, the end was a dead end. She took out her phone to send a message to her brother. Then, she unfortunately met her demise. The scene shifted back to the present. Kanyu was holding his sister's phone. He finally got in touch with a friend. Kanyu took Sujin to his friend's house to hide. At this time, Sujin was coming out of her sorrow. On the other side, Kanyu's sister had been monitoring his phone. She had also obtained the location of his friend. She prepared to go alone to hunt the two. Choi Jun-kyun was in another meeting. The higher-ups decided to make the parasite issue public, and the priest was attending this meeting. Humans would take citizen reports to conduct a large-scale cleanup of the parasites. After the meeting ended, Choi Jun-kyun received a phone call. Unexpectedly, the call was from Sujin. Sujin was worried that the priest had infiltrated the police station. This could bring disaster to humanity, so she warned Choi Jun-kyun. There were moles in the police station. Uncle Ming and his assistant were both parasites, but Choi Jun-kyun didn't believe her at all. She said they had already been checked. Then, she told Sujin that, if she also wanted to eliminate those parasites, they should meet to discuss it in detail. Unexpectedly, Sujin directly told her the location of the cafe. Soon, Choi Jun-kyun went alone to the cafe. She even paid for Sujin's coffee. When she arrived at the rooftop, Choi Jun-kyun found it empty. She called out a few times. Sujin did not respond. After a while, Sujin emerged from the other side. She was worried that Choi Jun-kyun had brought the gray unit. Sujin warned her that, if she acted on her own, she would summon Heidi. Then, Sujin warned Choi Jun-kyun again, just like on the phone. But Choi Jun-kyun said, the two had just reported the location of the parasites in the meeting. Sujin said that was their trap. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Choi Jun-kyun broke her promise. She called her subordinates to try to capture Sujin. Heidi took control of Sujin's body. She jumped off the rooftop. Then, Heidi told Kanyu that Sujin was doing something dangerous, and she warned Kanyu not to take any action for the next 3 hours, because she had exhausted her energy and was about to fall asleep. On the other side, Kanyu's sister arrived at his friend's house. When the friend saw her sister, he quickly called Kanyu. Kanyu heard that his sister had come. He warned his friend to leave quickly. Suddenly, his sister's expression changed dramatically. She warned Kanyu to bring Sujin over. Otherwise, she would kill his friend. Sujin had already awakened, but Heidi had fallen asleep. Sujin insisted on going back to save people. She planned to pretend to be a parasite to buy 3 hours, but when she returned, the parasites sensed Heidi's weak brainwaves, and they told Sujin that they already knew Sujin was a parasite mutation. The mutation that threatened the church must be eliminated. At this moment, Heidi was still fast asleep. In a moment of crisis, Kanyu burst out from the door. He threw a fire extinguisher at the parasite. He took advantage of the spreading smoke to get his friend out. Unexpectedly, the friend, to let Kanyu escape, stepped forward to block the parasite and sacrificed himself. Kanyu vowed to kill all the parasites. The scene shifted. Choi Jun-kyun was arranging the battle plan, but Sujin's words had sown the seeds of doubt. She secretly took a pair of scissors in the elevator. While the fat guy wasn't paying attention, she snipped off a small handful of hair, but in the end, she found that the cut hair hadn't broken. This indicated that the fat guy was not a parasite. Choi Joon-kyung finally sighed in relief. The gray unit arrived at the parasite's hideout. Suddenly, Choi Joon-kyung received another phone call. She informed Kang Yu of the test results. Kang Yu found it hard to believe. He told Choi Joon-kyung that, if the fat guy was not a parasite, he was still on the side of the parasites. He was the one who killed the hunting dog. Then, Choi Joon-kyung just had them record the conversation. She intended to continue her mission. If anything happened to her, he should take the recording to Officer Kim. The gray unit launched their operation. A parasite attempted to escape. It was shot dead by the priest at the entrance. At this moment, the parasite sister returned to the hideout. The priest was reloading his weapon. Against his kind, he saw the sister wanting to resolve things together. The priest was stopped by the fat guy. He could only watch her leave. At this time, the sister also felt the taste of betrayal, listening to the voices coming from the phone. Kang Yu and his friend were also confused about the situation. He could only hang up the phone. The two pondered the priest's intentions. Suddenly, Kang Yu looked up and saw the mayor's poster. He suddenly understood. Kang Yu explained to Soo-jin that, as long as the parasites were successfully eliminated, the mayor would attend the music festival event, and the priest wanted to infest the mayor. This mayor was a candidate for the next presidency. The priest aimed to reach the pinnacle of power in Korea. When the parasites descended, the fat guy was playing golf with a congressman. His wife and the congressman's wife were complaining about their husbands. A junior officer's salary was too low, and he couldn't even afford his child's tutoring fees. At this moment, the congressman mentioned that the priest had been acting strangely lately. He hadn't officiated a service in a long time. The fat guy said he would go to the priest's house to reassure everyone. When the fat guy arrived at the priest's house, the priest was sitting in front of the TV watching the news, and there were signs of a struggle in the bedroom. When the fat guy went to check, he found the priest's wife lying there. From this moment on, the priest planned to infest the person at the peak of power, so he made a deal with the fat guy. Once he became president, the fat guy could do whatever he wanted. Time returned to the present. The priest held a press conference. He announced information about the parasite sister and Soo-jin. He wanted citizens to report their locations. Before long, Choi Joon-kyung approached the priest. After his speech, she asked him about an item he had picked up at that time. He had also met Soo-jin at the amusement park. What was that item? The priest couldn't answer. The fat guy made an excuse to take him away. At this moment, Choi Joon-kyung finally began to doubt the priest. The priest planned to kill Choi Joon-kyung using human methods. On the other side, Soo-jin and others also saw the news. Suddenly, the parasite sister called. She wanted to meet Soo-jin. They arranged to meet at the botanical garden. Now, they were in the same situation. Soon, the two arrived at the botanical garden.
너는 여기 남아 있어라.
왜?
Heidi was worried that Kang Yu would seek revenge, so she went to meet the parasite alone. As soon as they met, it invited Heidi to kill the traitorous priest. Heidi replied that the priest's goal was to lure them out. He wanted to infest the mayor during the chaos. Heidi only wanted to survive. She didn't want to provoke the priest. The parasite pleaded with Heidi for help. The priest had now infiltrated human organizations. It would be difficult for it alone to kill the priest. Suddenly, Kang Yu burst out from behind with a knife. He wanted to take revenge for his sister and friend. But the parasite sister did not kill him, and with Kang Yu's addition, the temporary team was successfully formed. Meanwhile, Choi Joon-kyung instructed her subordinates to compare the wounds on the hunting dog. She discovered that humans could replicate parasite weapons. As long as this weapon was used, the body could appear to be the work of a parasite. At this moment, Choi Joon-kyung received a phone call. She went to attend a meeting. The higher-ups said they had received news of another batch of parasites. They requested Choi Joon-kyung to lead the gray unit to hunt them down, but the location of the parasites was very far from their current position. Choi Joon-kyung felt that something was off. She inquired about the source of the information. As expected, it was false information provided by the priest. The higher-ups ordered the gray unit to set out immediately. When they arrived at the door, they found that the mayor's safety had been entrusted to the priest and others. Although she felt uneasy, Choi Joon-kyung still obeyed the orders to head to the neighboring city. On the way, she suddenly received a call from Soo-jin. After Soo-jin's warning, Choi Joon-kyung immediately turned the car around to support the mayor. On the other side, the mayor attended the local music festival under protection, and Kang Yu had come here to observe secretly. Soo-jin and her sister were hiding in the car to avoid detection. Suddenly, they sensed the priest's brainwaves. They quickly got out of the car to join the action. Unexpectedly, they were blocked by Choi Joon-kyung, who emerged from the side. Soo-jin urged her sister to go first. She confronted Choi Joon-kyung. After an intense battle, Soo-jin knocked Choi Joon-kyung down, but she did not kill Choi Joon-kyung, and turned to leave. Meanwhile, Kang Yu received the news, and quickly focused on the mayor. The guards around had been taken down. The priest was about to succeed. Suddenly, the fat guy burst in with a gun, and rescued the mayor. Kang Yu couldn't believe. He suddenly had a change of heart. He hurriedly pursued him. Gray Unit soldiers entered the tent. They found a body without a head. The scene shifted. The priest's head was hidden on the fat guy. He jumped out to kill the guards protecting the mayor. Then, he prepared to infest the mayor. In a moment of crisis, the sister appeared just in time to save the mayor. At this time, the parasite sister smiled at Kang Yu. She pushed them away. She stayed behind to block.
미안했다.
But the sister couldn't match the priest. In the end, she was killed. At this moment, Kang Yu had a different perspective on this parasite sister. His eyes filled with tears. Kang Yu took the mayor away from the battlefield. The priest's true form appeared. At this moment, he could not last long without a host. The fat man is still worried that it won't live much longer. And so, the fat man finally died. The priest put the fat man's head into a bag. Then he hurried after the mayor. Kang Yu took the mayor to hide in the warehouse. Seeing the approaching fat man, they quickly hid. The priest's head stretched 2.5 meters. It stood tall and could see far. The priest soon discovered the mayor's whereabouts. It charged toward the two of them, but the priest was pushed back by Kang Yu with fireworks. However, the priest aimed directly at the mayor and dragged him away. Fortunately, Heidi arrived just in time to cover their escape. Then she engaged in a struggle with the priest. Seeing he couldn't win, the priest fled immediately. Heidi chased it to the memorial hall. At this moment, the priest emerged and started his verbal assault, but its head was empty. The original was preparing for a sneak attack in the shadows. Unexpectedly, the priest's abilities had improved again. Now it could separate the original and the parasite to exist simultaneously. The priest found Heidi. It wanted to recruit her to rule humanity together. Unexpectedly, Choi Joon-kyung suddenly burst out. The priest ordered her to kill Heidi. Meanwhile, the priest's original was preparing to ambush behind Choi Joon-kyung. In a critical moment, Heidi transformed and killed the original. Choi Joon-kyung also shot and killed the priest. And so, the two of them eliminated the last parasite beast. Heidi developed a sense of humanity under Xiao Ren's influence. After the final battle, Heidi's energy was completely exhausted, and she fell into a deep sleep. Xiao Ren also fell unconscious because of this. Kang Yu hurriedly held Xiao Ren. Gray Team soldiers aimed their guns at the two. Choi Joon-kyung ultimately recognized Heidi. She chose to let them go. The crisis temporarily disappeared. Xiao Ren returned to the supermarket to continue working as a cashier. That day, Kang Yu waited for her to finish work so they could hang out together. He told her some good news. Kang Yu found a job. He joined the Gray Team. Xiao Ren was happy for him. Then, Kang Yu took out a letter. This was a letter Heidi asked him to write. Heidi wanted him to express these words in a human tone. She understood the meaning of human existence. She felt fortunate that she had parasitized Soo-jin, and that she hadn't eaten Soo-jin's brain. Whether Soo-jin liked it or not, she was no longer alone. She would not be lonely anymore. On the other side, Choi Joon-kyung met with a Japanese person, but she had no idea how powerful the person before her was. Then, he extended the strongest right hand in Japan. The entire show ends here. Parasitic Beast, Gray Team is adapted from the Japanese manga of the same name. Although the first part has only 6 episodes, the storyline is quite complete. It revolves around the alien invasion and Heidi's transformation. Heidi, initially an inhuman alien parasite, developed humanity through Xiu Ren's influence. The film also explores the complexity of humanity and the boundaries of morality. The fat man, selfish and indifferent to human safety, ultimately died at the hands of the parasite. There are many twists in the plot, providing the audience with unexpected surprises. The special effects are also outstanding, showcasing the realistic appearance of the parasites. Overall, this adaptation is very successful. The tense atmosphere and the actors' performances are highlights. It is worth watching the original film. The man who appears at the end is none other than the protagonist Shinichi and his parasite Mijai from the original work. It seems that the second part is also related to the strongest parasite in Japan. Looking forward to the performance of the sequel. If you enjoy my commentary, please subscribe to my channel. Your support is the greatest encouragement for me.